a Leary with nothing to say? I find that hard to believe. I'm your cult boyfriend, and I would like to talk to you about the fifth season of Dawson's Creek. Um, well, generally, the fifth and sixth seasons are looked on kind of with contempt from a lot of fans of the show because the first four seasons were just that good. They were so good, so incredible. In fact, that there is a very, very strong argument that the show should have probably ended after high school. That we shouldn't have followed these characters any further. That we should have ended with the daydream believer, Dawson and Joey. It was such a perfect ending. Season 4 really was such a perfect ending. I'm just thinking about it now, and yeah, that's really the perfect place to end it. And even by that point, showrunner, creator, genius, Kevin Williamson had already been gone. So, really, a season 5 does seem kind of puzzling, but there is a reason around it, and while season 5 isn't as good as the first 4 seasons, I do like it a lot more than season 6. Season 5 is, it has some shining moments, mostly in the incredible form of Chad Michael Murray, who is also actually like a pretty controversial character. I love Charlie. Charlie is amazing. I love being around Charlie. Chad Michael Murray can fucking murder me if he wants. He's incredible. He's fucking super hot. What the fuck is wrong with any of you? Charlie makes this season almost worth watching. Season 5 it does try to do certain things. A certain thing the show is trying to do is that like it's no longer a joke that Dawson really isn't the star of Dawson's Creek, that it's Joey's Creek. It's no longer just like a theory or a joke. I mean, but by season 5, it is clearly Joey's show. But I think more importantly or more interestingly than that, it's Katie Holmes. It's like an advertisement for Katie Holmes as a celebrity, as a movie star, as a future goddess of Tinseltown. It's like, this is really an advertisement for Katie Holmes as a pinup, as a postmodern pinup. And I think it actually does really successfully. And like, maybe they put her on stage and like she's singing songs in Charlie's band, but the show does get interesting even in spite of what that is. But even that right there isn't too, I don't really take umbrage with that too much, to be honest. I do find this as if it is an advertisement for Katie Holmes as a postmodern pinup, as a postmodern teen idol, then it's a fascinating bit of advertisement, right? Because it is an idealized form in a show of deconstructed forms. It's a self-aware form in a show that is almost cripplingly self-aware. It's kind of fascinatingly done. If it is an advertisement for Katie Holmes as postmodern pinup, which it mostly is. But if I can dwell on Charlie for a second, because I think that Charlie is the secret ingredient of season 5. If there was no Charlie, no matter how much I love Katie Holmes, no matter how much I adore that woman and just to have a huge crush on her, season 5 operating simply as an advertisement for her as a sex symbol really doesn't work. You know, I mean, like, I don't need to be sold to this 22 episode long or 23 episode long extent. I don't really need to be sold this heavily. Kind of preaching to the choir here. Chad Michael Murray as the male version of this postmodern sex symbol, as the male version of this postmodern pinup. This is like right before One Tree Hill. This is right before Chad Michael Murray was going to kind of define masculine beauty standards for the next 5 or 6 years. And you can totally see it here. He is a scene stealer. He's a heart stopper. The guy is so fucking hot that it's distracting, but it's really electrifying to see. And you can tell they didn't exactly know what they were doing with Charlie. He was supposed to be Jen's love interest. But since the show is a vehicle for Katie Holmes as a product, At this point, the show is a vehicle for Katie Holmes as a product. They very clearly decided to remove Jen from Charlie, to kind of put Michelle Williams on the back burner. And since the show was really focusing, the show was hyper fixated on Joey Potter, on Katie Holmes, and they were going to give Katie Holmes this brand new shiny toy that they didn't exactly know what to do with, but boy, is he a lot of fun to play with. Charlie is a fascinating character. It's fascinating to see to see the invention of two sex symbols, right? And one is organic, while the other is the other is just created. The other, we are watching Katie Holmes being created into a sex symbol, being molded into even more of one. I'm not really sure why that was necessary, because she definitely stole everyone's hearts in the first 4 seasons of Dawson's Creek. In fact, like this forcible the forcible sexualization of Katie Holmes in season 5 is a bit crude, because part of what made Katie Holmes so irresistible was her understated appeal. What was always her girl next door quality and a naive quality. Um, and season 5 is seeking to diminish that naivety, which is fine. That comes with adulthood, but I think it's seeking to diminish the naivety so that they can they can sexualize something about her more overtly, you know. Um, as the show has said, sexy will always win out over sweet, or sexy will always win out over nice. And Abby would say, you know, being sweet is pretty fucking boring. So we'd have to revitalize the sex symbol of the show. They could have easily done that with Michelle Williams. I'm not sure why they didn't. I think that Katie Holmes had a lot of juice on this set, but she's being created into a sex symbol, whereas Chad Michael Murray is just organically becoming one. Like with him, it's undeniable. It's like, whoa, holy shit, I'm thirsty. All of this, I'm parched. Every time Charlie walks on screen, it's very interesting seeing these two icons interact with each other, because it is iconography interacting with each other. It's studio made and it's organic, and they are talking to each other, and they don't know how to act with each other, but one has to leave. I mean, clearly Chad Michael Murray is leaving for a greater opportunity for One Tree Hill. That's clearly why Chad Michael Murray is leaving, but that doesn't diminish the poetry of their relationship. And I think it really conveys precisely what I'm talking about here, with Katie Holmes acting very coy and very naive and very innocent, very reserved, and I think really trying to magnify the differences between Michelle Williams and her product description, and a Katie Holmes and her brand. Right, they're really like driving this home, which could explain why Michelle Williams had such a poor time on Dawson's Creek by most of the accounts I've read of her experiences making the show. They definitely do seem to deliberately sideline her and really not be subtle about it. I don't think this would have happened if Kevin Williamson was still around. Kevin Williamson loved Katie Holmes, and Katie Holmes was Kevin's muse, but Kevin, I mean, he would talk about how all you had to do was see Katie's eyes, and there is so much pathos, so much pity in them, that you really don't have to do much else. That's what I'm talking about. The understated, just undeniable beauty of Katie is far more interesting than the contrived sexualization that Dawson's Creek Season 5 goes for. But, my God, Chad Michael Murray has a fucking rockin' bod, am I right, everybody? Oh my God, it's wonderful seeing them interact with each other. It's something organic meeting something contrived, but what's so bittersweet about it is that it's something organic meeting something that was where Chad Michael Murray was like 3 years earlier. Like Dawson's Creek Season 1 and 2 was really when Katie Holmes was becoming an icon. And she was becoming one in a way that was equally as organic as Chad Michael Murray. And it's like, Chad, they're going to do this to you. Like Charlie, you will become Joey Potter season 5 eventually. I mean, and that certainly happened. They found a way to make Chad Michael Murray's beauty convoluted within his own vehicle, within his own television series, which is what's happening with Joey Potter. We have some other cool guest stars. Of course, Ken Marino. I'm a big fan of The State and of Veronica Mars and Party Down. I love seeing Ken Marino. And I think he is like a dapper, good-looking, like fine gentleman. It's just so hard seeing the guy, whose most famous line in television history is "I want to dip my balls in it." Really just send Joey for a romantic loop. That's a little hard to accept, but it's fun. Ken Marino does incredibly. And of course, Audrey Busy Phillips enters the frame. Busy Phillips is excellent in this. Good pairing between her and Pacey, which is what ultimately happens. She definitely seems tailor-made for a Pacey, almost deliberately written to be so, deliberately conceived to be Pacey's new love interest, and they play off each other wonderfully. I do like that we are following like three actually, since finally Jack, Jen, Joey, Dawson, and they're all pursuing higher education and a bit more of a privileged or traditionally successful lifestyle. And I do like that we're seeing Pacey working in hot kitchens. He's rising extremely fast, so that's because it's television. I don't want to see this guy like wash dishes for 2 seasons. I do like that we're being shown an alternative lifestyle, and they didn't like pull some strings and get him into Worthington or something stupid. I like that Pacey is our blue collar hero, is our postmodern brat who refuses to be held down, to be pinned down by some great and absurd weight. Pacey will always bounce back, and Pacey makes everything look good, especially working in a kitchen. I just think that that's good representation. This show would be so depressing to watch if I was just watching a bunch of people, a bunch of fictive characters who were, like, far more successful than I could ever dream of being. I'm like, okay, thank God there's a Pacey. Thank God there's, like, a normal fucking dude going through the same kind of problems, able to participate in the same level of postmodern diatribes as the rest of them. Dawson Leary does get to be pretty interesting this season. He's consistently interesting. In this one, he loses his father. He loses the patriarch of the Leary family is removed from us. And Dawson Leary needs to step up for, his new sister, Lily Leary. And he's also becoming disillusioned with film and filmmaking. And I do love the character Oliver that he ends up making a film with. Oliver is pretty cool, and no one in the comments better say that I remind them of Oliver. I will ban you. But Oliver is a really cool, it is kind of funny that Kevin Williamson really didn't have anything to do with this season, because he reminds me of a Williamson cinephile. This kid is like some Tarantino reject who could possibly just explode in violent outburst, and very creepy, very weird. I love the guy. Fantastic little character there. I love Oliver. And Dawson does end up teaching himself a sentimental lesson through this show. And the show is aware that it really doesn't have a whole lot to say. That's why they're like a Leary with nothing to say. That's insane. Like, Dawson doesn't want to leave until his baby sister says her first word. And it's like, and we don't want to leave the show until Dawson's Creek actually makes a statement. Because Dawson's Creek is about making these postmodern statements. It's about making these really incredibly complex and sophisticated statements about life and love and coming of age, and yet all the way up to like its final episode, the show's really not being profound, but it's acting like it is. But it's acting like it's so profound, but the show is self-aware enough to know a Leary with nothing to say. I've never heard of that. We must be mistaken. So yeah, it's an 11th hour save the cat moment for the show, where Dawson. It's all about missed opportunities. It's all about it's kind of hinting at where we're gonna go through to season 6 and its final couple episodes there, which were written by Kevin Williamson. So there definitely was some sort of communication here, because it entertains the idea that in real life you can't have every opportunity that you'd like to have. In real life you can't, but in contrived cinematic or syndicated, like televised circumstances, of course you can. That's what television is for. That's what this medium is for. In fact, we shouldn't deconstruct art forms so much that we forget the function of the art itself. This season ends at an airport with so many different moving parts, and it feels like it's on a stage because it is. And it's not trying to pretend as if it isn't. It feels so contrived, so theatrical, as it should, because Dawson's having this revelatory feeling. Our Frank Capra of Cape Side is remembering sentimentality and remembering the poetry within it. We almost had a nihilist Dawson Leary through some of this season, with him losing his virginity, and then he tries to idolize that moment or keep it in a stasis, but that's the whole thing about sex, or definitely about like the first couple times you do have sex. These moments are like so fleeting. They were built to be fleeting. Making love isn't something that's supposed to be kept within some sort of stasis. Isn't something that was meant to be stationary. Having sex is always supposed to be this thing that is always in motion, that is always changing, and even in your memories of them, the memories themselves are dissipating. And that probably drives Dawson Leary insane. He and Jen, of course they couldn't last, because also Jen, if there's one thing Jen does not like, it's feeling like she's being held in place. Jen admires ambition, even if it's a self-destructive ambition. But Dawson Leary has this weird sentimental ambition, which is rather unattractive, or it's at least philosophical suicide, as according to Jen Lindley. And I don't disagree with her at all. Sentimental ambition is philosophical suicide. I would have to agree with Jen Lindley, and that's ultimately why I believe Jen Lindley dumped Dawson Leary. But I suppose my main point is that the show ultimately, every season except for season 3, which makes season 3 so incredible, where characters literally abandon Dawson's narrative, the show accepts Dawson's narrative, because Dawson's narrative is one of optimism. And the show is trying to form a statement about, we don't want to have any missed opportunities, that film can give us the opportunities that we missed. And we can watch those moments over and over again. We can watch those same moments played out by different actors within the same kind of formula. That film can give us the sentimentality that our nihilistic lives refuse to give us. That's kind of the realization that our own Frank Capra of Cape Side, our own Dawson Leary, our own postmodern auteur, that's a realization he comes to. Season 5 does have quite a few things to say. They just wait a long time to say them. But even before then, the Charlie and Joey back and forth, that dynamic, that chemistry is really fascinating to watch. Might not have been deliberately intended to be as fascinating as it was, given the circumstances, but it doesn't make it any less impactful. I love watching Charlie and Joey together. I love watching Charlie and Jen together. I love watching Charlie. Let me be fucking straight up. I love Charlie. I love watching Charlie. And since I love Katie Holmes with all of my fucking heart, and if I get to spend more time with her, that's fine. That's really fine by me. I can just see how it kind of hurts the overall body of Dawson's Creek. I can see how it could damage it in a certain way, because it just seems unnecessary. We know that Katie Holmes is incredible. We know she's stunning. We know that her smile is one of the most contagious fucking things on the planet. We don't need to be forcibly in her orbit all the time. Uh, Katie Holmes is incredible. I mean, we don't need that. It's like it had to prove that to us. Like, why would you ever have to prove that to us? Everyone knows it. That's Katie's power. I would say just stop trying so hard. She's incredible. Katie Holmes in an understated role. That is that's a strength. The strength of this season really didn't flex too much, to be honest. Jen Lindley, though, Michelle Williams is quickly becoming one of the greatest actors of her generation. You know, fuck a sex symbol. She don't need one. She don't need to be one. I mean, she's beautiful in her own right. But seriously, you watch Dawson's Creek, and if there's any truly consistent arc, it's Michelle Williams kind of learning how to act, or in a certain way, or at least learning how to be transcendentally good at acting. Because by season 5, every line is delivered in almost experimentally daring ways. Like, she's so confident. The decisions that she makes as an actress are so surprising and so incredibly rewarding to watch. I love watching Michelle Williams act during these last during the second half of Dawson's Creek. She really comes into her own and makes Jen such a dynamo character, such an amazing character, that the events of season 6 are going to break your fucking heart in a million pieces. I really can't wait. I really can't wait for that. Yeah, Kerr Smith did wonderfully as Jack. We get to see a little bit of internalized homophobia on the part of frat boys. We get to see that whole system kind of cave in on itself. It's kind of where I think that Jack might have BPD, like Jack might have borderline personality disorder. I think that this is just kind of bad writing, but it does feel like Jack, while there is a consistent like inner Jack core that doesn't change. But I think it's probably due to Kerr Smith more than anything else. There's always a Kerr Smith in there who understands Jack perfectly. The writers seem to want to change who he is almost every single season, and it makes me feel like he has borderline personality disorder, because I never know which Jack I'm going to get, but I know I'm stuck with whatever new Jack they want to give me every season. Whether he be a weird art kid, a frat boy, or a lovesick and kind of romantic quarterback or football player or whatever. That's kind of annoying about Jack's character, but regardless, he's amazing. He's an amazing character because Kerr Smith was such a charismatic actor and understood the importance, the significance of Jack McPhee so much that Kerr Smith made sure that it was powerful and that it was still consistent and that it was still empathetic, and it definitely totally was. I just wish the writers had a bit more consistency or like really understood who Jack was, because they really do have a firm understanding of Pacey, Dawson, Jen, and Joey. They always have understood those archetypes. Just Jack gets it's like they don't know who the fuck Jack is. They never know. But thank God for Kerr Smith for having a really deep understanding of the character from day one, so that all these weird, seemingly random, last-minute changes to his character don't affect the overall character of Jack McPhee. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Season 5. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you it's not a step down from seasons 1 through 4. Is it unnecessary? Yes, but I think that great television shows need unnecessary parts. I absolutely feel that way, especially if it's a postmodern one, especially if it's basically a postmodern epic diatribe. I need episodes that meander. I need entire seasons, entire storylines, entire characters that go nowhere. Because obviously, postmodernism is heavily about existential inertia. This Dawson's Creek season 5 is existential inertia, the TV show, and while it may be irritating to watch, I think it's fascinating to consume. I think there's a lot of interesting things here to talk about, and I think that like I almost think like it's trying to be irritable. I almost think that it's trying to be antagonistic at times, or at least it knows that it's either in trouble or that it's a true departure, a true stylistic, narrative, tonal departure from the first four seasons. It was they just got stuck in the weeds a little bit. Like, you don't have to prove to me that Katie Holmes is hot as fuck. Trust me, I already know. You have to prove to me that Dawson's Creek could exist outside of high school and had the same power. That's what you should have been focusing on. Not whether or not I wanted to fuck Katie Holmes. You should have been focusing on whether or not Dawson's Creek is has the legs to survive college, which it did not necessarily prove. I think it's a good season. I think there's a lot of a lot of parts that are difficult to endure, but I'm so happy that I did. I'm always happy that I do. Whenever I rewatch this show, I'm always kind of low key looking forward to season 5. You can really relax. You can really just have fun with it and just chill because there's not a whole lot of consequence to this season. And yeah, I have to be hot and cold with this one. If I sound contradictory, this is a hot and cold season. There are great parts and there are bad parts, and overall, it's a deeply flawed but deeply moving piece of television. And I think it's a very unique, incredibly idiosyncratic example of controversial postmodern pop art. Thank you. I'm your cult boyfriend, and in the comments, what do you think of Dawson's Creek Season 5? I've yet to meet someone who genuinely loves it, and I would love to meet that person. Let's have a chat. Thank you for watching my video. I have a lot of other videos on Dawson's Creek on this channel, including video essays about specific characters. Have ones about Joey Potter, Jen Lindley, and oh my gosh, Abby Morgan, the best character on Dawson's Creek. It's been too long, Abby. I miss the golden days of season 2. I miss you, Abby. It's been too long. All these people are too fucking sweet, and being sweet is fucking boring. I need you to create drama for me, baby. Fuck. I miss Abby. That's what season 5 makes me do. I miss Abby. Oh, have a good one.